So
Perfect.
I good. So today I'll be talking to you all about what I know best about, which is farmers markets, especially the one that I run, which is the Rocky Butte Farmers Market. So here's a little bit more picture of me in my natural element, eating anything that anyone hands me at the market. And my co-manager, Haley, I do the work with her as well. We are a very small neighborhood market with a ton of heart. We've only been in business as a market for 5 years, only 3 years as a weekly market. Before that, we were doing pop-ups or monthly markets. So I'm now in my fourth season working for the market, and I'd love to share with you everything I know about why you might want to use farmers markets to grow your business. So why farmers markets? Why am I here to talk to you about that? Well, from what I've been told, a lot of you have joined this course kind of because you're thinking of starting your own business and it might be a bigger investment. So you might be thinking about getting into grocery stores with a product you make, or you're gonna buy a food truck and start selling from there, or you want a brick and mortar, so a full restaurant or cafe or something like that. And as we all know, that takes a lot of funding, a lot of capital. So how can we use farmers markets to kind of take that stepping stone towards those dreams and goals that you have? So it doesn't have to be a stepping stone. I will start off there. Many of the businesses who are at farmers markets, that's where they stop. That's where they're happy. And that's wonderful. If that's your dream, you will get along perfectly with me. But it can also be used as a great way to start growing your business. And it's a good way to do that because it has so much lower costs and lower barriers to entry than those other options that I mentioned a second ago. So, there's also some great benefits to being directly in front of the consumer. So you can get direct feedback straight from the consumer before you're trying to get into a grocery store. You can start establishing your brand and make sure the packaging is right, make sure the branding is right, make sure people actually want your product or like your product. And because the costs are so much lower than going straight into those other goals, this is why this can be a great stepping stone. You're also thrown into a group of other businesses, other small businesses who have been doing this for however many years. And you will have direct access to those other vendors' knowledge and experiences. So it's a great networking option as well. Okay, so I want to quickly, just for anybody who doesn't know, I want to go into kind of some basics of the markets in Portland because I find that a lot of people get really confused because one, there are so many of them in Portland and right outside Portland in the greater Portland area. And where do we start with them? So a lot of people assume that Portland Farmers Market, this is the group who runs the big market, the PSU Farmers Market, so you might be already be aware of that one. Many people assume that they operate all the markets in Portland because of the name, and that's not the case. They do operate many, but not all of the markets in Portland. This list here, the PSU, the Szymanski, the King, Kenton, and Lentz, those are the ones that are actually run by Portland Farmers Market. They are basically like an umbrella company who runs these 5 markets in Portland. Then the other markets you might have heard from, maybe there's a market in your neighborhood or that you know about already that you like to visit. All the other markets are independent. They are all run either by themselves or by another nonprofit group, but they all have different areas of focus and expertise. Some of them are just plain old farmers market, but there's a few that are kind of falling into um, kind of different focuses. So, like for example, from left to right, we have Black, Indigenous, people of color led or focused markets. So that would be your Coley Farmers Market, which is an Indigenous run farmers market. There's Come Through, which is a Black and Indigenous market. So those are very focused on who they are providing space for. And then you get into some kind of incubator program markets, which are trying to really help you succeed and grow you. And sometimes they have great like grants that help you get your equipment, or they have good workshops on helping you grow. So that might be like the St. John's because they're part of the Center for Opportunity. Montevilla has a little bit of an incubator program. And then on the right side, what our focus is, Rocky Butte Farmers Market and a little bit of Woodlawn Farmers Market. We're a nonprofit farmers market, and we're really focused on our community out in Northeast along 82nd Avenue. So we do a lot for our community to build it up, things like that. This is not all of the markets. This is just an idea of how you can kind of decide which market you want to join based on what their goals, what their values are. So if you really want to, maybe you yourself are Indigenous, you might really want to be a part of the Coley Farmers Market, but you're not limited to that. It's just that you might feel like the values will align with your own. Um, and then it is also broken down into other ways. So there's seasonality of markets. So again, this is not every Portland area farmers market. If I included every single one, it would be way too much. But so you can decide what kind of market you want based on how much time you have available, or if you want to be a part of a market full year or just seasonally. So we have the year-round markets like Hollywood, Montevilla, Portland Farmers Market at PSU. Then there are some markets that are run year-round with winter pop-ups. And then there's some that are a little bit more seasonal, so just the summertime. So they will probably go from May to October or June to September, something like that. So these are a lot of the basics that I think I wanted to tell you about, so you can kind of get a better idea of how you have a say on what market you're going to join. You don't necessarily just have to join a market just because it's the market that everybody knows about. You can actually shop around and find something that really aligns with your own personal goals. I also want to mention that just because the market has high shopper count, meaning that there's a lot of people who come through that market, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right market for you. Like, for example, if you were super new to business and joined, say, PSU Farmers Market, that one is huge. You might kind of become invisible to the shoppers because there are so many established vendors at that market. Those vendors have been doing it for years and years. That market's been doing it for years and years. And you might not look as good next to the other vendors because you don't have your banner yet. You don't have the different things that might make your booth look really nice, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. So high shopper count is going to help you. It's going to potentially mean more sales, but you also have a say. Maybe you really want to get better feedback So joining a smaller market means that you are going to have the opportunity to have conversations with every shopper that comes through that market. For example, we are an extremely small market. And so our shopper count is, a fraction of what like PSU, or even Hollywood, who's on the same day as us, gets. But one thing that our vendors say week after week is that our shoppers are absolutely so friendly. They give amazing feedback. They're super supportive. And that's because we are such a small market. So you get that opportunity. So just wanted you to get an idea of the fact that there's a lot of different options out there, and it's not always 100% shopper count. Okay, so I also, since you'll probably get a copy of this, I put the links to all the regular season markets and all the winter markets here, so you can click on that once they send out the presentation to you, and you can get a list of everything. Okay, so let's talk about the cost, because I just said, oh, it's so inexpensive to join a farmer's market. I will make this part pretty quick and so we can get into the other stuff, but I just want to say that this is the bare minimum that every market is going to require. So if, say, you are able to get either a grant or you have the funding or you're ready to start investing in your business and you can get about $500 to get started, you are set for the bare minimum equipment requirement, which is always going to be a canopy that looks like the one right here. You can get it branded. That's going to be a lot more expensive, or I've seen them at Home Depot for like $120. Our market has a bunch from Home Depot that were about $120, and they're actually very easy to set up. So you should be fine with that budget, at least to get started. You're going to want a 6-foot table. That's again, the bare minimum. And again, I've seen them at Home Depot. We own ones from Home Depot for our info booth. So very accessible and easy to get started as long as you have these things. And, maybe a friend has these, Facebook Marketplace, you got options. And then lastly, every market's going to require tent weights. If you go to a market and they don't require tent weights, put some tent weights on your canopy. When that canopy flies, it takes everything with it. I've seen people lose so much product because their weights like shifted and it flew. So always you're going to want some tent weights. So I put a few options up here to show you the different prices. There's a really good DIY options online, but also you can just buy the ones that are already pre-made. The one thing I will say, I don't like these, the black ones. I don't know if you can see my pointer. If you can't, I'm sorry. But yeah, Alex, are you saying yes, you can see the pointer? Yes. Okay. So yeah, so these ones, I don't love these ones, but maybe if you got like 2 sets of them, that would be heavy enough to keep your canopy down. But the problem again with these cloth ones is that if it rains, which every market goes through the rain, they're going to take forever to dry out. Also, dogs like to use them. So that's not fun. So I would say if you can find a plastic version or do the DIY option, that would be preferable. And then you'll need some sort of purchase system. Obviously, any business you go into, you're going to need this. But I do want to say that in the past, you had to buy a whole system or you had to get this little swiper and it doesn't always work well. Now, a lot of our phones come with tap technology where you can actually take card payments and tap through your phone. Like literally any phone just somehow has it, and you can just hold the card up to here and you can accept it on your Square system on your phone. It's very nice. It makes the cost of starting so much lower. A lot of small businesses who start at our market usually start with Venmo as an option or different Venmo adjacent companies. So It's definitely doable, but obviously there are a bunch of different options if you want a little bit more capabilities, or if you know that you are going to eventually have a brick and mortar, or you are eventually going to grow and you have the funding for this, you could, get yourself something that holds a tablet or one of these nice pieces. But I'm just trying to say you can start with little and grow to more as needed. Okay. I want to make sure, have there been any questions in the chat or anything? Everything's good so far? Okay. All right. So, applying to a market, what to expect. So every market has some kind of application that they will require their prospective vendors to use. Um, Most of them use one of these companies. So we use Market Spread. It's basically just a website that helps farmers markets market managers like myself take applications, send vendor invoices, set up a map. It's basically a farmers market vendor website. So some of the Portland area ones use Market Spread, some of them use Manage My Market. There's also Market Works, and some of them just have their own website that has all those capabilities already built in. Those are those are the ones who have been in business a long time, so they've been able to set those things up. So when you go and you've gone and you've searched out every market out there, you've decided, okay, here are the markets that I want to apply to. Here are the markets that I feel a connection to in some way. The first step is always going to be to apply. And in order to apply, I highly recommend that you will always be asked to read a vendor handbook and agree to those terms in the handbook. So the only problem is that I have not seen very many handbooks translated into Spanish at this time. There might be a couple that are maybe somebody like PSU, but that is going to be a barrier if you need it to be in Spanish. And especially they tend to be very long. Like that's why I think a lot of people feel a little bit scared to get involved in a farmer's market, is because those handbooks can be really tedious and long. But that is the first step, because that's where we put all of our rules, how we operate. Um, we have to make sure that everybody's aware of how it's run so that, everybody's on the same page. So that's just something to be prepared about for. And then most markets will ask you to create an account in one of these sites. Then you will be able to complete the application, and then you will tend to either pay a fee or put in your credit card details to pay a fee later. So some markets will charge a fee just for applying, and some markets will charge a fee only after you've been approved. So obviously it's a little bit more accessible knowing that you can apply to a bunch of markets and not be charged a fee unless you're approved. But unfortunately, that's not the case for all the markets. Some have you pay like a $10 to $20 application fee. So that's just something I wanted you to be aware of. Okay, you applied and you waited a long time and then you got an answer. What happens next? So let's talk about being denied. Something that I think is the reason why I wanted to bring up about Portland Farmers Market not running all of the markets is that, hey, you got denied by one market. That doesn't mean you're denied by all of the markets. You're only denied by the one that you were applied to. I think that's also the case for the Portland Farmers Markets model. If you apply to, say, Szymanski, which is run by Portland Farmers Markets, and you get denied, I think you can still apply for King, which is also run by them. But don't quote me on that one. But anyways, as far as the independent goes, you can go find another market and apply. But before you do that, find out why you were denied, because there's a multitude of reasons. It's not just because we didn't like you or we didn't like your application. It's almost never that reason. Uh, the biggest reason that we have to deny people, if ever, is that we have too many of that product category. So say we have way too many baked goods already. We don't want to have too many baked good vendors because that means everybody's sales kind of could be affected. Um, and you don't want to go to a market and have the same things at every vendor booth. You want some variety in life. So find out why. Was it because you don't have enough you are in the same product category of something that is already there? Are they just not accepting any new vendors at this point? Things like that. So find out why, and find out why so that you can improve for the next time. Um, same same exact answer to if you're ever waitlisted. Sometimes they waitlist you again, probably for the same reason. Say you're a baked good and you applied and they have too many, but they really like you and think that maybe another vendor is on their way out of the market. Maybe they're done with their season soon. They might bring you in later. But also, again, find out why so that you can improve. Um, I was approved, so that's great. Sometimes once you get that approval notice, you're good to go. You're ready to start at the market. But some markets they will have some next steps for you. So some markets do a product jury, and what that just means is they just are gonna get a sample of your product. You'll cook it for them, or you'll bring them a sample of your product. Um, and they're going to all taste it, test it, look at it, figure out if they want to have you at the market with a group of people that contribute to that decision. Or if you're in agriculture, if you're a farmer, they might schedule a farm tour so they can come check out your farm, make sure that everything is in order, and just see what you're doing out there. Or they might just ask to have an interview with you. Um, so there are some next steps even after you've been approved. And sometimes there's no next steps. Sometimes you're good to go. And what you'll get is some more information. So just make sure, I think the main way they're going to be contacting you is through email. So just make sure your email is active and up to date, your voicemail box is empty, and they will be reaching out with more information. And then you get to prepare for the market. So go on to the next. So here's some beautiful pictures, I think, in my opinion, of some of our amazing vendors at our market. Just to give you an idea of what can make you stand out at a market. So we talked just a second ago about the bare minimum equipment. So canopy, table, tent weights, some way to accept money. That's not going to get you sales. That's going to make you a very boring booth presence at the market. And one thing that has been studied is that shoppers at a market, they will take 3 seconds to decide if they're going to shop at your booth. So just think about yourself. If you've ever gone to a market or a craft fair or anything like that, and you're walking through, you're walking relatively fast. You're making those split second decisions like, that I'm not interested in that product, or I'm not interested in that. So give them something to look at and really focus on. And some of those things are listed here. Branding, abundance, looking professional, looking neat. So let me talk about branding. Well, let's talk about abundance first over in this photo. So you can see their product, they're selling microgreens. So they have huge, huge things of microgreens. They made their booth look abundant. Abundance is absolutely key. People are more likely to buy from you if there's a lot of your product out. Um, Think about it when you're shopping and you see that there's just like one apple left at the grocery store. You're gonna feel a little suspicious about that apple. You're gonna be like, I'll pass on that. So abundance is absolutely key. You want it to look big and beautiful. So I want to go now, after saying that, go over to this photo of Voifruta dairy beef. Because they're a meat product, they can't really have everything out on the table. Uh, you have to keep it in a cold storage. It's, food safety. So they focused primarily on their branding. They've got this huge, beautiful banner behind their booth, and all of their products. I wish I had a zoomed out photo, but everything is pink. So their canopy is pink, their banner is pink, their cash box is pink, their cooler is pink, everything's pink. So you can't miss them at the market. It's very cute. Um, and so instead of working on abundance, they worked on that branding. And I do want to mention about branding something, and I really want people to take seriously the idea that farmers markets can be a great way to get that branding started. I think of like Choi's Kimchi, who they actually started at a farmers market in 2011. And now they are a product that's recognizable up and down the West Coast, in groceries all over the place. So they actually started at PSU Farmers Market in 2011, and that branding was established, and now it's everywhere. So again, something to keep in mind. Um, I just want to make sure there's nothing else I wanted to mention about this. But yes, if you're looking at these photos, everything looks really neat, very clean. There's no clutter anywhere, as far as I can tell personally. Um, so making it look neat, making it look nice, you can do a lot with a little. Just starting with that tablecloth, starting with, getting a banner, um, telling people exactly what you're selling, because people are actually really shy. They don't want to come up to you and talk to you unless they're that very outgoing person. Most people are going to want to be able to look at your booth and see exactly what you're selling. Same with pricing. They want to know immediately so they don't have to guess. They don't have to have that awkward conversation. So those are kind of ways that you can stand out once you join a market. Another way is doing sampling. Again, when you are at a farmer's market, if you are the owner of your business and you are the one staffing your booth space, you have the rare opportunity to literally talk to the people who are buying your product. If it's in a grocery store, you never get to have that conversation. If you're selling it online, you're not having that conversation. Um, you get to talk directly to the people who are buying your product. You get to see, maybe you had a great idea for how to display or how to package your product. And then a shopper buys it one week, they come back the next week and they go, it really didn't work in that product, in that packaging. You immediately get to have that feedback, and you get to change things, and you get to update things before attempting to go into a space that costs so much more money, and so much more investment. Um, Also, so another way of standing out is sampling. So sampling is a great way because you're right there with the shoppers. You can actually have them test your product right on site, get some feedback immediately on what they think of it. And even if they're not too shy to say they don't like it, you'll be able to see on their face. We try to hide it, but we're not hiding it. Um, so, yeah, that is a great way to see if people are actually really enjoying your product and to get that live feedback. Okay, I want to make sure. Yeah. Okay. So I want to go through a summary, make sure I didn't miss anything, but this is just a summary of everything I just said verbally. Oh, yeah. So you're going to want to have a professional and attentive presence. I really do recommend an adult be staffing the booth, but I know that sometimes that's not the option that you have to have your kid helping you and things like that. That's totally fine. It's just make sure they're prepared for that. Um, Being attentive, if your kid's on their phone or if you're sitting on your phone in the back and you just are looking down like not paying attention, people don't want to go shop from you. They don't think you care, so they don't care. And maybe you do care, but you're just a little bit shy, and so being in your phone is the way that you process that. But you got to come with your best effort forward if you're going to be selling directly to people. Um Yep, I think I went through all of that. Okay, last thing on this summary is to really communicate and collaborate with market staff for better sales opportunities. So I always say, personally, let us know if anything's not working. Let us know if you think there are ways that your sales could be improved. Um, by something that I have control over. Most market staff, if not all, want to help you. They want you to do well because when you do well, we do well. Shoppers come back. Um, so really communicating and collaborating with the market staff as well as your fellow vendors could give you so many new ideas that you never even thought of to improve your product, your sales, your experience. Okay. And then I put a bunch of key terms in here again, just for when you get this presentation. Just a bunch of things that come up that we use in our own verbiage as market staff that maybe normal people aren't saying every single day. So just threw this in here for when you get the presentation. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work. I only have one video here. If it doesn't work, it's okay. This is just Teresa. She's one of our vendors. She owns TT's Bakehouse and she started out as a new vendor last year. I will hit play, but it might not work.
Hi everyone.
Can you
My
hear?
name is Teresa and I run a small micro bakery called TT's Bakehouse. I started my bakery at the end of winter 2023, first by doing just online orders. Pretty quickly, I realized I wanted to connect more directly with my community, so I applied to the Rocky Butte Farmers Market in spring of 2024 and I got approved. Now, this is my second season at Rocky Butte. At my farmers market, I sell cookies, cakes, muffins, sourdough breads like focaccia and cinnamon bread, English muffins, and rolls. Being at the farmers market has really helped me grow my business. The regulars in the neighborhood have really become the heart of my customer base. It was their word of mouth support and trust in my products that have been one of the biggest reasons I've been able to grow. Of course, there are many struggles in the beginning. Like many others, I struggled to have enough capital to start. I was lucky that my boyfriend supported me with space to bake, and every week I saved little by little until I could buy better equipment. By the middle of my second season, I was even able to move into a commercial kitchen. Another challenge I had was figuring out how much to prepare. I plan and shop days in advance, but at first I often made either too little and sold out early, or too much and ended up with waste. Over time, I learned how things like weather, holidays, and other local events can impact sales. And customer feedback has always been huge. Positive feedback gave me the confidence to keep certain items on my menu and even shaped it into what it is today. Negative feedback helped me focus on consistency and improving my product. So if you're dreaming of owning a small business, I encourage you to consider starting at a farmer's market. I've had a great experience so far and it really helps support the community.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So That was Teresa. She, yeah, she's raised up for that. She has been a really amazing addition to our market. Like I said, she started out last year, and I'll show you kind of where she started out in this next one. So on the left-hand side here is some of her first markets. I will say it doesn't look that bad, but it's definitely not as good as it looks today. So she had just kind of like the bare minimum, like I was saying. She also was sharing the booth with um, a cousin. So her cousin has a business, so she was actually sharing the booth so that she had a little bit more product to provide. So that's another thing that you can do. So always ask the market staff if you can share a booth, if that's ever an idea that you have that would make it easier for you to get into a market. But she was sharing the booth. She had this like paper down on the table that actually started showing the oil from the baked goods. It looked really bad by the end of the day. It looked really good at the beginning, but really bad. And you know, very bare minimum, no banner back here. I know you can't see, but she didn't have her banner yet. She was using her cousin's banner for Farmzilla products. Um, and now on this right side is her today. She's got a lot more product branding. She's got more pieces kind of showing off her branding. She's even got t-shirts. And now actually, I wish I had more photos, but they've just expanded to have hot food. So they're using her English muffins that she bakes. They're using those to make breakfast sandwiches. So it's really been such a success story. And again, like I said, she started as a new vendor, new to business just last year. And this is how far she's come. She's one of our best vendors, like one of our most consistent and best vendors now. I'll show you a couple other pictures. So this is another farm that we work with. They sell mushrooms. This was them this is One Up Farm. They're in Coley. And they sell mushrooms. This was them in 2022 at our market. If we could zoom out, you would see they have no canopy. They just have the table, and this is all the product, all the fresh mushrooms they have right here. And then they have some dried mushrooms on the left and right. Now this is them today. They have tons of mushroom plus a whole cooler in the back. They've got their banner. Their cash box has a lot more stickers on it now compared to 2022. I just noticed that. And a lot more product now. They have 2 or 3 tables sometimes set up. Sometimes they have a full shelf of plant starts. So they've really taken the farmers market and used it to grow their business. And now I think they're in 3 markets now. When they started, they were just at ours. Um, and that is it for my presentation. I'd love if anybody has any questions. I think I have a few more minutes here, but any questions, anything I missed, please let me know.